That is the final whistle at Old Trafford. It's finished. Manchester United 1, West Ham United 0. West Ham managed to prevent Manchester United from scoring. Unfortunately, they couldn't prevent Craig Dawson from putting the ball in the back of his own net. The only goal of the game coming 8 minutes after the restart. A Fernandes corner turned in brilliantly into his own net, unfortunately, by Craig Dawson. Echoing that Ian Dowie famous header against Stockport all those years ago. It really was an excellent finish, but unfortunate for Dawson, who's been absolutely magnificent in recent weeks. It's going to be very, very hard to find things to talk about, I think, here, gentlemen, in this post-match discussion, given that it's been a pretty turgid game, and I think that's been kind. We'll try and pick some bones out of it anyway, and Noam, I'll come to you first on this one. Manchester United 1, West Ham United 0. What do you make of all that?
Availability dictated the setup, which was too defensive, I think, at the end of the day, looking back in hindsight. Things improved second half, but final ball, final decision too often was lacking. And, there was one cross late on from Declan Rice, which just sailed out for a goal kick. And I'm not sure who looked more annoyed, me or him. It's a game, another day, and another bunch of players available that, we might have been able to get something out of. But unfortunately, our attacking intent was too little too late and not good enough. So move on.
That's
everyone else lost, so we haven't really lost any ground. There we are.
Well, that I think is the pertinent point, isn't it? The fact that Chelsea didn't beat Leeds, Everton lost at home to Burnley, Tottenham beaten by Arsenal. We said at the top of the show, Pinky, didn't we, that it's essentially a free hit for West Ham. If we get something out of it, then great. If not, it's been the perfect weekend to suffer a defeat. And unfortunately, that's exactly how it's transpired.
Yeah, and again, if we were asking for people's predictions in August, of predict the score at Old Trafford in March, yeah. We wouldn't have been looking at too many predictions of West Ham United 5, Manchester United 0, would we? Realistically, a 1-0 away defeat at Old Trafford is par. So the forum tonight will be raging with debate about he should have played Ben Rama from a fortnight ago. He should have stuck him on that early, kind of thing. I don't agree. All about opinions and all that, but the reality is, if you go to Old Trafford and you say, right, we're going to go all out attack, and bear in mind that's all out attack without a recognised striker in your starting 11. Let's not forget Mikel Antonio as a make do and mend person to play in that position. How much damage do you think Marcus Rashford, England's Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood are going to do to you when they're running into acres of space behind you? We were set up relatively defensively in the first half, and Luke Shaw was destroying us, absolutely destroying us. So if we've gone all gung-ho and say attack ourselves, I would imagine we'd have gone in at the break 2 or 3 goals down, because just saying, well, just have a go, that's what we say as supporters. Have a go, give them a game and all the rest of it. The reality is the professionals know if you go all out at Old Trafford with their front line, you leave acres of space in behind you and they'll exploit it. And then you're done. At 2-0, you are completely out of the game. At 1-0, you're still in it. And that's the point. We didn't get anything tonight. It's a shame. I don't think we necessarily deserve to get anything. But what we didn't get was a 5-0 thumping.
Yeah.
And as I've said it before, come the last day of the season, goal difference might make a difference. And Leicester City's 5-0 win today, ultimately, that might be those might be the 5 goals that guarantee them European football next season and deny us European football next season. You know, in that sense. You know, Tottenham today, some comedy stuff from them this afternoon. Chelsea, again, you know, failing to beat Leeds United. Quite happy with that. So we've lost. It's not a disaster. I said last week, the team we had to beat was Leicester City, you know, in our running. And that is the team to beat. I think we've seen Everton again show signs. I think I described them last week as a bit hit and miss. You know, they blow a bit hot and cold. So I still think we're the decent shout of European football. I'm not sure whether it'll be the senior competition or the junior competition, but I think, you know, we've got a good shout of being in that top 5 somewhere. And tonight, looking at it, it's the threadbare squad, and we say it every week. You know, I simply cannot believe that Ben Rama was a priority signing for David Moyes. And yet we saw the club's accounts published in the last week or so. It's screamingly obvious the club has no money. We are absolutely on our uppers, and we end up signing Ben Rama, who, you know, Fornals isn't available, Lingard not available, you know, and he picks Johnson ahead of Ben Rama, and he picks Mark Noble ahead of Ben Rama. So arguably he's 5th pick by the manager tonight. And I don't think that's got anything to do with whether we set up attacking or defensively tonight. You know, the balance of the team changed. Yes, when he took Noble off, that's not because he's put Ben Rama on, it's because he's put Tommy Soucek 15 yards further up the field.
Yeah.
That was the difference tactically, you know, when we looked a bit more positive in the last 10 minutes. So not a disaster tonight, not a great game to watch. For those that actually did plonk their mums down in front of it and say Happy Mother's Day, make it up to them on their birthdays. That's all I can say.
Very true indeed. A very happy Mother's Day to all the West Ham mums out there. Anyway, and I hope not too many of you were sat through what we've just watched for the last hour and a half. Anyway, Rio, Manchester United won, West Ham United won. No Jesse Lingard, no Pablo Fornals, and no goals. Was it ever going to be any different?
You would have hoped so. I mean, before the game, a win tonight would have really put a cat amongst the pigeons in terms of league performance and league positioning. What we've seen is that the manager set faith in a tried and trusted setup against bigger sides, you know. He wants to be compact, keep it tight. We're so good at set pieces. We'll try and nick a goal from that avenue. It didn't work. It's not because the tactic was necessarily at fault. It's just the personnel let him down. Ben Johnson started off quite brightly, in my opinion, but as the game grew on, Luke Shaw absolutely battered him down that left-hand side. And before he went off, he looked like an absolute lost soul out there, you know. It's probably not his confidence for 6 completely. Mark Noble, the legs just aren't there against the quality of that midfield against him. You know, McTominay, who works his arse off for Manchester United. Fernandes, we all know that what quality he's got.
Yeah.
And at 33 years old, it's hard for Mark to swing against that kind of calibre. Well, you can criticise Ben Rama all you like, you know. Moyes obviously doesn't trust him to play in that compact setup that he puts a lot of faith in, you know. The defensive discipline just isn't there. And in terms of going forward, he's not delivered it in spades this season, has he? You know, it's been very fleeting appearances of the ability that so many people put a lot of faith in him for, you know. We've seen it time and time again at West Ham that players seem to develop a myth about their ability and their game-winning performances and game-winning opportunities. The honest truth is, Sonny Benrahma hasn't delivered, particularly a £24 million price tag. He's not delivered much at all this season. I think out of the two players that come on, I thought Manuel Lanzini was the brightest spark of those two. But what we're seeing again today is when we do play more compact setup, having Mark Noble as a third wheel in that middle, it just doesn't fit. It nullifies the effect that Thomas Souček has. As Pinky said, when Noble went off, Souček was 15 yards further forward and looked a threat. You've got three central midfielders who are so far congested, it negates any kind of attacking impotence that we get. We had Mikel Antonio in that first half back at 30 yards from his own goal. You know? When the ball did get up to him, he had absolutely no one around him again. It's a tactic that's worked quite a lot this season, but having that third person sitting deep in midfield really, really negates any attacking intent we have. And we look so disjointed and so kind of off the pace against it. It's not something that I want to see again.
Yeah. Perfectly summed up, really, gentlemen. I think all three of you, excellent stuff. Talk, the big argument tonight is going to be Benrahma or Noble over Benrahma. This is what it's going to boil down to. I'm just watching Twitter out of my left eye while I'm watching Rio with my right there, and I'm just seeing a stream of derogatory and negative posts coming through from people really who should probably know better about how David Moyes' tactics are awful and Benrahma should have started and what a great player he is. Including journalists as well. I've just replied to one on there, but we'll see how that one develops. But as you know, the point being, as I've just made, that Benrahma, that West Ham still created no shots on target with Benrahma on the pitch, as was the case with Noble. But no, I'll start with you on this one. Noble over Benrahma. Would you have made that decision given what you've seen? It's difficult. Us fans, it's really hard, isn't it? Because we can sit here and pontificate all we like. We don't see these players day in, day out in training. Moyes does. David Moyes does. He knows exactly what he's going to get from a player. I think it was you. Was it yourself or Pinky made the point about that break from Fernandes where he hit the post? Benrahma started to chase him back and then gave up halfway through and thought, I'll leave it for someone else. I mean, these are the sort of things that David Moyes will see in training, aren't they? And he'll make a decision based on those things. And we don't really see those. We as fans, or a lot of fans, will just see Benrahma, the guy who's got amazing trickery when he's got the ball at his feet. They don't see the fact that he's not chasing a guy back who's 50 yards ahead of him, and covering for other players. What's your view on that decision tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you have a think about this. But Benrahma did. Let's get the good side of Benrahma out of the way first, shall we? When he did come on, he did try and make things happen, and a few times he was sort of running at players, and he did cause a few problems. Now, the problem I have with Benrahma is that he does that sort of thing off the bench. When you've got 10, 15, 20 minutes to go, he'll come on and he'll be trying to make an effort, trying to make an impact or whatever. We don't see that from the start when he's selected as a starter. Yeah. And I mean, it's a horrible phrase that people use with the impact sub, I think is what they come up with. And but that's what he is. He's someone that he's improving, but at the moment, he's someone that you bring him on to try and break someone down, whether it be to sort of go 1-0 up or get an equaliser. But I don't see him being capable of doing that for 90 minutes. From what I've seen of him so far. So if you start on that premise, then it's if you picked him from the start, would we have got that? I don't think we would. And I don't think we'd have got what we got from him on an attacking basis. And we certainly would have seen a lot more of the not really doing an awful lot defensively. And yeah, it was Pinky spotted that. You know, I merely followed up with the when you saw the view of it from behind the camera. It was very frustrating to watch that. And yeah, I suggest that Moyes looking at that might have been doing his nut at some point. But so yeah, so if you reckon you can't do that for 90 minutes, Fornals is injured. What else you got? I mean, if you'd had Fornals fit and Noble, then that might have been an interesting debate. But then we don't know what he would have picked there.
Yeah, good point. And I think it's interesting there that you touch on Fornals, because you know I think we're all advocates for our Spanish winger, and you know, always speak positively about him, and yet there's a lot of people who don't see what he brings to this team. And in a funny way, Pinky, I think you've probably seen more tonight what Fornals does bring to the team by him not being out there, if you get what I'm saying, in a sense, because
yeah. I mean, they say some of the best games you play are the ones you don't, and you know, how often do you hear the clamour for a player to be included who's been out of the manager's thoughts for a while? In terms of Pablo, you know, we talked about him at the top of the show, his work rate, you know, his perpetual motion. You know, he is non-stop, you know, running all evening, and we missed a bit of that tonight. But you know, I understand why supporters, you know, are frustrated and what have you, but I think we need to be a bit careful in saying, you know, that's why I was picking up on your comments about Moyes and the top six and all the rest of it. Luke Shaw was genuinely world class in that first half.
Yeah,
he knew exactly what he was doing. His manager knew exactly what he was doing in telling him to play in that precise spot, and you know, that's what you're up against. You know, this isn't you know, the Rose and Crown playing the dog and duck. Each team, each club is looking at the opposition with an army of video analysts. They're pointing out all the potential weak spots. You know, it's a hard gig, and it's a lot more in depth than we'll stick on Ben Rama and see what he can do, kind of thing. You know, the analysis that they're doing and what they know about the players from what they do week in, week out, not just on the training pitch, but what the video analysts will actually be, even as we're chatting away here now, we'll be cutting and splicing tapes together for David Moyes, pointing out all the good things and all the less good things that have gone on this evening. And I'm afraid we've got to Old Trafford, lost 1-0, not because of a lack of ambition on behalf of David Moyes, but because of a lack of funding from David Sullivan.
Yeah.
You know, and ultimately, for supporters to be calling for the inclusion of Ben Rama, well, okay, make something happen, blah, blah, blah. I chucked another name in there earlier this evening, Edison Cavani, who, yeah, he's injured for Man United at the minute, but he would absolutely 100%, even the aging Edison Cavani, walk into West Ham United starting 11. No doubt about it, no ifs, buts or maybes. He would be first pick every week as a striker. The fact that David Moyes is having to make do and mend with Mikel Antonio, who had a bright start, but, you know, faded, because you can imagine he plays every single week, and against the caliber of opposition we've had tonight, it's a tough gig. You know, Ben Johnson there this evening and Mark Noble then, you know, sitting behind him and Bowen on the other side. We said Shaw made sure that Bowen was pegged back in that first half. Yep. Johnson was no outlet at all, and Noble, bless him, he just doesn't have the legs to get up and down the field. But I'm not convinced that Ben Rama and Lanzini would have been better picks in the first half because of their lack of defensive contribution. And 1-0 down at Old Trafford, you're still in it. 2-0 down, you're out the game. Yeah. And we saw, was it last week against Leeds United? They had the ball in the net in the opening 10 minutes. Fortunately, both ruled out, But that's what a quick firing, quick starting team can do to you. You know, if you want to give them a game of football, but imagine going to Old Trafford and doing that, because what? We're going to bank on VAR and the linos flags. That's not much of a game plan, is it? You know, the manager has to think about it a bit more deeply than that. And you know, I think we really are short on options, and therefore short of attacking personnel that you can trust to do a job well enough at one end of the field, but still do quite enough at the other end. You know, we saw the difference between, say, Benrahma and Antonio. There's a situation in the second half where Antonio, might have been the first half, where Antonio sprinted back fully 60 yards to defend. You know, flat out, full tilt, to the point I'm watching him thinking, don't do your hammies running back to defend, Mikael. Side Benrahma, been on the field less than 10 minutes, lets his man go, and his man just kept sprinting, and Benrahma just slowed to a jog and said, oh, well, there's a defender over there can deal with that. Not good enough.
Yeah.
And you know, but I maintain it's not Moyes, it's not David Moyes, it's David Sullivan. He needs to find the money, and when he finds it, don't waste it on players that the manager doesn't really want. It's not difficult.
No, very good stuff. I'm kind of loath to do this now, gentlemen, but it is part of our post-match discussion. So I guess we're going to have to do it at some point. So we might as well get it out of the way. Rio, the KUMB.com forum match thread. What's going on in there? Tell us what's happening and bring us some joy. I'm sure it's not going to be joyous at all.
I don't know anyone called Joy. Otherwise, I'll call her up and get her over straight away. No, there's nobody happy at all in the forum whatsoever. Moyes is getting a lot of pelters. He's been accused of cowardice, negativity, every other byword for that you always get in post-match defeat, But the lack of intent tonight has been exacerbated on the forum. I was trying to point out a couple of those kind of comments, but also a couple of comments on the way that the team misfunctioned at times as well. Funky Chicken Book, this is a serious question. Does the majority of our squad suffer from colour blindness? I refuse to believe a Premier League club can be that bad in passing the ball to a teammate. Dean Henderson must have been smoking a cigar all evening. And already we are seeing what happens when we lose one or two players to injuries or can't play due to the lack of funding from the owners. Would Noble have played if we invested in a central midfielder? It took Fornell's injury or for Grandpa Noble to be thrown into a team competing for a European place, and did the attacking players do enough in Lingard's absence? The answer is obviously no. Rice and Fabianski are the only two players to come out with credit tonight. Simon 1982, I thought we were rubbish. You can blame Moyes, but our passing was poor, our decision-making was poor, and we were still poor when Lanzini and Benrahma come on. Both of them did absolutely nothing. 8 subs, 2 of them keepers, 3 kids. We've been excellent this year, but 2 or 3 injuries to first-team players was always going to hurt us. Danny Boyd, DJL, put, I actually thought the last 15 minutes we should have swapped Bone Antonio and got Antonio wide. He's one of our better players, and these games he seems so isolated, he might as well not be on the pitch. Let's get him on the ball and get him out wide to try and beat a man or two. Yeah, I'm trying to, because obviously there's loads of comments about negativity, cowards, got no intent. So I'm just trying to point out a few that at least a bit more constructive rather than the pelters that he's getting.
Yeah.
Ironing Board, just to finish off here. Ironing Board put lost 1-0 away to the second best team in the country via an unfortunate own goal. It's hardly a result worthy of over-the-top knee-jerk reactions. Next game out, we'll have Lingard on the back and hopefully Fornells too. Bone was disappointing again, despite his starting berth. I felt we were too slow to get the ball out into the box once Benrahma and Lanzini did come on. Benny needs to work on releasing the ball a little bit quicker, as you need to be more proactive to work the opposition keeper. Yeah, so away from those kind of comments, it's all Moyes is an absolute nutsack.
Yeah, I think there's a fair bit of that about tonight. But anyway, there you go. That's what you expect. Football fans, don't you love them? Hey, Pinky, I've got a feeling that the opinions on Red Cafe aren't going to be exactly complimentary from the Man U fans, even though they've seen their team go second in the table and record another 3 points tonight.
Yeah, I mean they're a tough crowd, and you know if you've grown up watching your team win the league 2 seasons out of 3, which many of their supporters would have done in recent decades,
yeah,
you can understand what they're saying, but in the same way that we're saying our manager's got a paucity of options, I think it's fair to say that Solskjaer isn't exactly blessed with them at the minute either, for one reason or another. The difference is he spent 75 million quid on a centre-back, when if you say, well, actually, if money's a bit tight, what's wrong with a loanee from Watford, and who makes as much difference to our team as Maguire does to the Man United team, so to speak. But Red Cafe tonight is, I'd say it's split. There's half of them basically saying a win's a win, and at this stage of the season, that's all we need. The other half basically saying it's not good enough. This is Manchester United and all the rest of it. It's in terms of our contribution to the game, they're pretty much unanimous in saying we didn't deserve anything. They've all clocked the fact that we didn't work their keeper at all this evening, which is true. But it's not a happy, chat board. Let's put it that way. It is muted pleasure, shall we say? It's a result they're filing under. A win is a win, but I wouldn't want to watch it every week. And I think that's probably fair. I wouldn't want to watch that every week either. But only one team really looked like winning this evening, and that was Man United. But I've said it, a number of times. We could have nicked a draw, and one or two of their posters are actually making that point. They're saying there's a guy here, Huey77. Take that win. We were much better in the second half. West Ham's negative first half, got what they deserved, nothing. I'm thinking Luke Shaw has to be the best left back of the league. Never under pressure, absolutely calm on the ball, doesn't give it away. Man of the match for me by distance. 2 centre backs were good as well, controlled the game with thought. A few scare moments dealt with, and that's a plus. Grinding out a win like this will give them some positives. Rice looked West Ham's best player, and their keeper had a good game. Absolutely, I think it's a fair comment. It's probably the fairest comment on there. And that person, he's picked our 2 best players on the night, and made the not unreasonable point that only their lot looked like they were going to win it. And I think that's fair.
Okay, good stuff. That's the forums for you wrapped up. The KUMB.com forum match thread is still open for comment. If you haven't already done so, feel free to go in and have your say there, or also here as well on the live chat on YouTube. And let us know what you thought of the game. Wasn't exactly one to write home about, or one that will live long in the memory, was it? But it's another defeat for West Ham anyway. No, have we had anything from the managers yet? Anything from Moyes?
Solskjaer was just on a second ago. I'll be honest, I wasn't really paying attention to him. Had a few words from Jared Bowen.
Okay.
Quote, obviously disappointed. In the second half, we were better with our press, but we shot ourselves in the foot when we broke on the counter-attack. We didn't take opportunities to get crosses in the box. We'll learn from it and go again. When you play Man United, you're going to have spells when you aren't on the ball, so you have to keep your shape. We hung in there when we needed to, and we did have opportunities, but we weren't clinical enough. In the first half, we weren't that great, so going in at 0-0 was probably good for us. Second half was about building and staying in the game to get that goal we wanted. We were pressing and running after them, but when we got to the final third, we were rash. Want to get back to me? We've got Moyes on now.
We'll do. While we're doing that, gentlemen, just waiting for Moyes' comments to come in, I'll give you a couple of stats. First of all, the overall match stats, possession, Manchester United. In fact, this didn't really change a lot from the first 10, 15 minutes, kind of set the path really for the rest of the game. Manchester United enjoyed 63% of possession to West Ham's 37%. Shots-wise, 15 shots for Manchester United on the day, 4 on target. Once again, West Ham limiting the opposition to just a handful of shots on target. And thankfully, Lucas Fabianski was on hand to make sure any that were didn't hit the back of the net, for Manchester United at least anyway. West Ham, 7 shots. Overall, not a single effort on target. 6 corners to Manchester United, 2 to West Ham. And the full-time expected goals stat reads Manchester United 1.43, West Ham 0.56. I'm struggling to think where that 0.56 came from, which particular efforts they're referring to there, given that we didn't have any on target. Maybe the blocked effort from Souček. I don't know. But anyway, a couple of comments from... or one comment from an ex-player. Trevor Sinclair's taken to Twitter to say that West Ham were too respectful and negative once again. We were miles better after the changes in the second half, but the boys proved they can compete. So time to back them if we're going to have a proper go at the top 4. I don't know if he means back Benrahma and Lanzini, or whether he means the board backing the manager. It's not quite clear. So make what you will of that one. And a couple of stats for you before we move on. Across 2 games this season, Bruno Fernandes has created 13 chances versus West Ham in the Premier League. The most any player has created against one specific opponent this season, which is interesting. Fernandes, of course, he was phenomenal in the corresponding fixture in the second half when he came on as a sub, turned the game around completely, hit the post tonight. But once again, being credited for being Manchester United's key player. One more stat for you. Only Harry Redknapp has managed more away Premier League games at Old Trafford without winning than current West Ham boss David Moyes. That's 15 for Harry Redknapp. 15 times we saw him go there and fail to win. And David Moyes has drawn 4 and lost 10 since then. Yeah, a couple of stats for you. Gnome has timed that perfectly. Look, David Moyes has finished. Gnome, what did the manager have to say?
Before you, I've got one more stat for you.
Okay.
Well, if it's a stat, I don't know if it counts or not, but when was the last time you saw a team not bring on a sub? Man United didn't today, so...
Good point. Very good point.
Anyway, to Moyes. He conceded that we played a bit too deep, particularly in the first half, and he was concerned about how Shaw was getting at us, which is why he changed things around a little bit at half time. When we were, he thought we played better after the changes he made with Benrahma and Lanzini come on, and but he thought our play on the break was poor today. Not what we're normally about, but he did think the last 15-20 minutes were a lot better. The final question he was asked was, hindsight's a wonderful thing,
yeah,
but if you could have changed anything about the way you set up today, would you have done so? And he just said, no. There you go.
Excellent. There you go. Well, I mean, I'm glad someone actually asked the question because, as we said, it's the question that everyone is going to be asking tonight on the forums and on social media. I just want to clarify that last stat I read. I was kind of reading that on the fly, and I think I got it a little bit wrong. It wasn't matches as West Ham manager, it was matches as a manager, full stop. Harry Redknapp has been to Old Trafford 15 times with all of his clubs, failing to win there. David Moyes 14, not just with West Ham, because obviously that'd be silly. He hasn't been there 14 times as West Ham manager. So it just unlucky for West Ham that both of them managed West Ham for a good majority of those 29 fixtures. Man of the match, gentlemen. We're going to wrap up fairly soon. Suppose there's only 2 real contenders tonight, is there? Declan Rice and obviously Fabianski in goal. Rio, who would you go for? Or someone else?
Definitely Fabianski. He made some absolute crucial saves. And for someone who's been getting a little bit of stick every now and then, last few months, I thought he did exceptionally well. And he's looked back to his best tonight. So he's brave in control of his area, crucial saves. Can't ask nothing more.
Okay, Fab for Rio. Pinky, how about you?
But for Fabianski's contribution, 4-0 would have been the score tonight, probably. You know, he certainly made a couple of saves that other keepers would have let in. So he definitely made a difference, and a very significant difference. But I'm actually going to give it to Declan Rice, because 2 or 3 times tonight he made full-on wonderful challenges that would have had every West Ham United supporter on their feet, no doubt about it, giving it large. You know, famous players in the past will be doing it as a matter of routine. I won't make the comparison, but ultimately tonight he looked a really good footballer, Declan Rice. One loose cross towards the end. I'm sure when his stats come out, that'll be in there somewhere. But he'd be my man of the match tonight, because ultimately, of our outfield players, I think he was the only one that played anywhere near his full potential this evening. So for me, he'd be our man of the match. But Fabianski, a very close runner-up.
Good stuff. Thank you. No, Rice, Fabianski, somebody else?
Barry White. No, I think Fabianski.
Fab for you.
I think Fabianski for me. Yeah, we've only done 1 goal dent to our goal difference, and that's pretty much down to Fab. So I'll go with Fab.
Okay, so that's 2 for Fabianski, 1 for Rice. I'm tempted to go. Barry White as well. I'm tempted to go for Craig Dawson for the header. It was a lovely finish. Unfortunately, it was at the wrong end of the pitch, but interesting. I mean, I think you forget it. Declan Rice put in a great performance tonight, and you know it's easy to forget that after 5 minutes it looked like he might not be able to continue, because he took that nasty knock. But he still got up to put in a wonderful performance, and you know I think you could see there was that incident right at the end, wasn't there, where was it Fernandes? I think he tackled the ball cleanly, and the foul was given against him, and you could see just how disappointed he was, absolutely furious at the decision, and you know you can see how much it means to him, and I love to see that in a play. You know, we see so many what are termed mercenaries in the Premier League that you know in these days, who just go through the motions essentially. Pick up the wages and you know go back to their families or whatever, and then you've got someone like Declan Rice who just lives and breathes football, and it's just wonderful to watch. So it's you know he was fabulous tonight, but you know I think I'm going to have to go with Fabianski as well, because I mean Pinky pointed out it's a great shout, absolutely right. If someone else is in goal there, that's 3 or 4-0 tonight. You know, pushed the shot against the post, didn't he? I think the only time he was beaten was when Fernandes sent the other shot against the post, but you know he was beaten because it didn't hit the back of the net. It wasn't goal bound. So yeah, back to his best tonight for Fabianski. And of course, we should point out for those who are unaware that he recently signed a new 1-year extension to his contract earlier this week. So perhaps that has something to do with it. But he definitely showed what a huge asset he is for West Ham at the moment, and looks good for giving it another year at least anyway. So Fabianski, 3 for Fabianski, 1 for Declan Rice, and both were exceptional tonight. 2 really standout players in what was a disappointing performance for West Ham. Before we go, we shall, as we always do, look ahead to West Ham's next fixture, which is a week today against Arsenal. It is another Sunday game. Fortunately, this one's a little bit earlier. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff next weekend, as opposed to a 7:15 fixture, which means we can probably ramble on a little bit longer next week than we will do tonight. Arsenal, Rio, I shall start with you on this one. Are you looking forward to that one? They had a good result today, didn't they?
Yeah, decent result for them, beating inferior opposition. I mean, I can't certainly say it every year. The Arsenal's teams seem to be getting progressively worse Mikel Arteta has come in. He's probably the most overrated coach in the world at the moment. I don't see really what he's done to improve Arsenal. He's made one very astute loaning signing of Martin Odegaard, who looks a very, very good player indeed. I'm just hoping we can have Lingard back, hopefully Pablo Fornals. Now, our transition from defence into midfield into attack with those two players back will make the world of difference. We'll be a lot quicker, a lot more fluent. And I'm incredibly hopeful that we'll turn this disappointing performance around, have our two key attacking midfielders back, and we'll absolutely fly at Arsenal and beat them 3 or 4-0.
Well, I'm sure we'd all certainly take that one. Thank you, Rio, and thank you for your company tonight. Gnome, Arsenal next week. It was a bit unfortunate, weren't we, earlier in the season? We certainly owe them one.
Yeah, and Rio's hit the nail on the head there. Lingard will be back. Fornals, well, we don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. But even just if Lingard would have made a hell of a difference out there today. You know, he does make a big difference to that side. Even just purely the sort of psychological thing of having somebody you know is quite good. They'll turn up next week and they'll think, well, we've got Lingard back. You know, we're not on the back foot like we might have been. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I mean, yeah, I did watch most of the game they played this afternoon, which yeah, it was funny, wasn't it? It just, everything that could go wrong did, and it was just amusing. So I think they'll find us a tougher nut to crack. Yeah, it should be a good game. And as you say, we owe them one.
We certainly do. Thank you, as always, for your company tonight. Gnome, I shall see you next week. And finally, to round us off this evening, the Pink Palermo, West Ham United versus Arsenal. It's one of our colleagues or former colleagues who is experiencing a little bit of a difficult situation at the moment. And this is one game that I'd love to see us win, if for no one else but for him. But do you fancy us next week?
Funny enough, I was just going to make that very point, Graham. And do you fancy us? It depends upon personnel available. You know, get Fornals and Lingard back in the team, it makes a massive, massive difference.
Yeah.
Arsenal, I think, are no great shakes. I think there's a young lad, double-barreled name that they've been picking recently. I think it's quite decent. But it's not a vintage Arsenal team. They are a team who I would go at from the first minute. You know, no doubt about it. I'd absolutely have a tickle at Arsenal from minute one, and I'd quite fancy Antonio running at their centre backs and dragging them all over the field. And I think if we could have Lingard and Fornals on the field, linking up with Antonio, I think that would give us some real options there. I think, you know, the two in midfield, Souček and Rice, are both top draw, and I just think, you know, today showed it was what was in front of those guys that determined the manager's thought process, perhaps. Arsenal, go for it, get a win, and really put the pressure on those other teams vying for the top 4 or 5 spots, and because Arsenal aren't going to be one of those teams. You know, they've had their cup final today. They've beaten Tottenham Hotspur. Arsenal supporters will now say, okay, crap season, but we got the result that we needed. I think next week they might have their foot off the gas a little bit. And if we go full tilt minute one, yeah, I think we can beat them. Absolutely.
Okay, good stuff. Well, we shall be here with you again next week. Next Sunday, as I said, from 3 o'clock. Well, from about 2:30. Actually, we'll be live on KUMB TV's Eyes Up Mother Brown. Do join us again next week. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show this afternoon. As always, we thank you for sticking with us and for all your comments, which we love to read as the match is going on. And yeah, that's just about it. I mean, let's finish on a positive note, shall we? Here we are. There's 10 games left of the Premier League season to go. West Ham 5th in the table. We are just 3 points behind Chelsea in 4th place, so we're still that close to a Champions League spot. We're still above Tottenham. We're still above Arsenal. We're still above another 15 Premier League teams. As Rio pointed out earlier, we're 34 points better off than Sheffield United this season. Could be worse, lads, couldn't it? Anyway, that's about it from myself and the rest of the team tonight. Thank you, as I said, for joining us. I'm off to be called pure old names on Twitter by Said Ben Rama fanboys. And that's the rest of my evening sorted out. We'll see you all again very soon. Until next time, come on, you Irons.